Hello and welcome to The Dragon and the Phoenix, the podcast that isn't afraid to talk about the paranormal, dish on pop culture, and just be our weird, wonderful selves. I'm one of your hosts, Heather, here with Craig, and this episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite current things, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The series on Disney Plus just wrapped up with its 6th and final episode, and I thought it was tremendous. I'm obviously a huge Star Wars fan, so I'm a mark for about anything they do. But I thought the quality of the show, the story that they told was excellent. This would be a spoiler warning right now. If you didn't watch it, stop, because we're going to talk about how the series went, some of the things that came up, and you don't want to listen any further if you don't want it spoiled for you. So spoiler warning, turn away. From this point on, we're going to be talking about Obi-Wan. So Craig, I know you're not as huge a Star Wars fan as me. You like Star Wars, but what did you think about the series?
I thought the series was great. How they went back to when they're mostly hiding the children from Darth Vader and stuff. So it was interesting to see. I thought Ewan McGregor did a great job, and all the rest of the cast and crew. It was amazing series.
I thought from start to finish, I thought it was really strong. You know, we got the story kind of what had happened 10 years after the end of episode 3, when Obi-Wan has taken Luke and dropped him off with Uncle Owen, and Princess Leia has gone and lived with the Organas on Alderaan. Now, one of my favorite parts of this is baby Leia. I don't know who the casting director is, but they did such a good job. There is a photo out there of a young Carrie Fisher and the young lady Vivian who plays Princess Leia in this movie or in this series, and they look almost identical. It was amazing how close they got a young Carrie Fisher to young Vivian. One of the also cute things about that photo is that in that photo, Carrie Fisher is holding a little bird. This name is Lola, and that is the name of the little droid that Leia has in this series. What I really liked about it was it showed you Leia's spunky spirit was there from the beginning. She was a young girl, but she was not to be pigeonholed into that princess role. She had an adventurous spirit, and much like her mother, though, she was very kind, and very headstrong. So I thought that just adding Princess Leia and making her the focus, where I think we all thought going into it, Luke was going to be the focus because it was called Obi-Wan and that's who Obi-Wan was supposed to be watching. I thought it was great that Leia was actually the one that the story kind of centered around. We also got introduced to the Inquisitors in live action. Now, if you've watched Rebels or any of some of the other animated series, you know the Inquisitors. They are the minions of Darth Vader, and their sole goal is to wipe out the Jedi, and they've done a pretty good job of it. In this, we're introduced to the Grand Inquisitor, and as well as the brothers and the sisters. They all have numbers, but particularly the third sister. So the third sister ends up being a youngling. She was at the temple when Anakin, who had turned into Darth Vader, came into the temple and slaughtered her family, as she called them. Jedi are taken to the temple at a very young age, and so the other Jedi, the other younglings, were the only family she knew. I really liked the evolution of her character from like bitter, angry, very Anakin-like person to revenge to doing the right thing, that light of the Jedi still lived within her and that she found her redemption at the end.
Yeah, it was a very well story of that. And I kind of had a feeling, you know, she would be the one that was to come back and redempt herself and stuff like that. Very well character, all of them. And it was pretty cool.
Like you said before, Ewan McGregor was back as Obi-Wan, and it's funny because, you know, we grew up with the original trilogy and the prequels came along later. We were a little older when the prequels came out. They weren't the best movies. I still have a love for them because they're Star Wars, but readily admit they are not the best movies. We're not the best stories, definitely not the best dialogue. But I think if you want to look for one bright spot in those prequels, it is Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. He really took that role and owned it. Alec Guinness was a legend, screen legend, and for decades that was his role. That's who you thought of when you thought of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I know so many people now, when they think of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's Ewan McGregor. He's a really good actor. He does some really good meaty drama roles. It's not like he's just doing sci-fi, and I think he brought that to that role and really owned it, really put in the practice. I think, aside from Ray Park, because Ray Park is hands down the best to ever wield a lightsaber, that Ewan is just unbelievable with the way he can roll that lightsaber around his hands and sling it around his back, and that his fighting style is it's fantastic to see it from the prequels till now is the same in the way that he wields that lightsaber. So Craig, what about you? I know you're a little younger than me. So the prequels, you were a little, were maybe targeted more towards your age when they came out. What did you think of Ewan?
I've always liked that, like you said, the original three. Return of the Jedi is probably my favorite one because of the Ewoks. I'm an Ewok guy. But yes, Ewan McGregor always, when you always think Obi-Wan, it's always Ewan McGregor. When he first began, he lost his path to be a Jedi. But just to see how he evolved to come back as the powerful Jedi, and the fighting scene with Darth Vader at the end was amazing. I mean, that was probably one of the best lightsaber fights ever. So,
yeah, I think that's what we've all been waiting for since episode 3, is another fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, and seeing Vader in the suit fight Obi-Wan, but not old Obi-Wan and old Vader, so they're all creaky and don't really move very well. But I do like what they did with Vader when he was fighting. You could see it in his fight with Reva too, was that he did have a blind spot behind him, in that because of the helmet and the way he couldn't move under his shoulders very well, there was a blind spot. And both Obi-Wan and Reva played that and tried to take advantage of that. Now, unfortunately, Vader's pretty dang powerful, and that didn't really matter in, well, either of those fights. But it was great to see Hayden Christensen back. He got a bad rap for the prequels. They were not his fault. It was the dialogue was terrible. He's a great actor. And it warmed my heart at Celebration when they brought him out on stage and the fans gave him a standing ovation, and like they couldn't talk for like 5 minutes because people were cheering. He deserves that moment. It was great to have him back and have him in that role. And I hope they're back. Both Hayden and Ewan have said that they would return to the roles for a season 2. So I think it would be tremendous if we got a season 2.
Yeah, so I'm very curious how they would go at that. I'm sure you have a philosophy how they would do that, but so at the end, Obi-Wan said goodbye. So I'm wondering if what they would go on into the future with.
So at the end, Obi-Wan does say goodbye, and he says, I think it's very important that he says goodbye to Vader, not to, well, actually to both, honestly, but who's standing before him is Vader, not Anakin. He realizes that, and it's at that moment that he can forgive himself. And it's when Vader tells him that Vader killed Anakin, not Obi-Wan, that he can forgive himself, he can move on and move past it. And I think ultimately that's why he doesn't kill Vader at the end. I mean, obviously we need him for 4 more movies, so he can't kill him. But I think that's what Vader wanted. Vader wanted him to kill him so that Obi-Wan would forever have to live with that guilt. But in the idea of not killing him, he lets Vader live, which unfortunately probably leads to the deaths of millions of people. But it also, it frees Obi-Wan from that guilt and that shame and allows him to still have hope, which he carries on into A New Hope. Now, you talked about where do we go from here? So there are a lot of theories out there, obviously, about what a season 2 could be. You know, we see Palpatine come in and basically tell Vader, forget Obi-Wan, he doesn't matter, we're moving on. So I would think we'd maybe stray away from Vader unless he's in the background, maybe sending his Inquisitors after Obi-Wan. We could see Obi-Wan join the Path. We discovered during this series that the Path was the way that Jedi were being helped to start new lives if they had escaped Order 66, and that those with Force sensitivities were also being helped by the Path to escape the Inquisitors. A lot of the canon outside the TV shows and the movies talks about how Palpatine was trying to basically clone himself, which we see played out in the 7, 8, and 9 series, in creating a vessel for himself. He thought that was the key to living forever, was to be able to transfer his consciousness from a body to another body, but he needed to be a very force powerful body or it wouldn't contain him. So it would be interesting to see if Obi-Wan maybe joins the Path for a little bit. It looked like he was, abandoning his little hovel on Tatooine and walking off into the sunset with another surprise return, Qui-Gon Jinn. That was really cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah, it was great to see him back in that role, Liam Neeson. So Obi-Wan's heading off in the sunset. We don't know where he's going to go. We don't know where the series might go. But I think it's exciting to think about the possibilities and what might be coming for Star Wars fans. Craig, do you have any theories about what might
I like to season 2. I'm kind of interested. Like to see how the resistant, get more into the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
See how they build that up to what it became to be in the very first video or movie, I should say. But yeah, I would like to see that. And
well, I think the great thing is that we're going to get to see some of that probably in Andor. That's the next series coming out. It follows Cassian Andor, who we saw in Rogue One. It's going to be kind of a spy thriller type feel, and we're going to get to see those early days of the Resistance before Rogue One when they get the Death Star plan. So I think that's a possibility. I do think that Obi-Wan being involved in that early Resistance is another possibility. But maybe we see very little of Obi-Wan, and that Obi-Wan might be there in the shadows around the forming of the Resistance, and maybe we'll get to see more of Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa, and what he does to help the rebellion into its young stages. Mon Mothma is going to be in the Cassian Andor series, so it's possible she could show up in a new Obi-Wan series. I think it's really exciting to see that part of the story unfold, because I think when you first watch the movies, what happened before wasn't really important. We like 4, 5, and 6, and whatever happened before was what happened before. But now that we've delved into that earlier period, it's fascinating to see how the stories unfold and how everything was interconnected. There is one thread from Obi-Wan that I'll be interested to see how it plays out. So it's a very small line, almost a throwaway line. Probably means more to people who have read a lot of the comics and the Legends stories. But Obi-Wan says at one point when he's talking to Leia that he has a brother. Now, may not mean anything, but it was very interesting to me that they bring up that he has a brother, and so that there's another Kenobi out there running around. Who knows where that could lead? Aside from that, there's a lot of other great Star Wars stuff coming up. One of my favorites, we will have The Mandalorian back. And my number one favorite character, Ahsoka, is getting her own series. Rosario Dawson has been a dream as Ahsoka. So knowing that all those things are out there, Craig, what are you really looking forward to up next with the Star Wars?
Well, I would like to recommend maybe just in a scene somewhere have an Ewok or something. You know, we got some Ewok people out there. We always enjoyed the Ewoks. We even, you know, growing up, we watched the Ewok movies and stuff like that. But it would be nice to have an Ewok thing, little cut scene in there. So I would probably like to see mostly Ewoks. So that's my thing. Maybe a droid thing. Like I said, I'm not into Star Wars that much, as you can see, but I do love this series.
I think it would be great to have an Ewok series. Like you said, we wore those tapes out. We had them taped off of television because that's where they showed, onto VHS tapes, and we absolutely wore those out watching the Battle for Endor and can't remember, Caravan of Courage was the other one. You know, and we watched this all the time. We lived in a woods, so it was fun to go outside and play Ewoks in the woods. And I know they get a lot of hate for the furry little ones, but I love them, and I think they should come back too. I think that would be great. Another thing I would, if we're talking like dream projects, and it makes me sad because it sounds like it's not going to happen. Things kind of fell apart. But they were going to make a Rogue Squadron movie. Rogue Squadron is part of the Legends canon, and it tells the story of Luke and his squadron of fighter pilots, and I think that would be fascinating. I'd love to see Mara Jade pop up. There's just a lot of stories I think left to tell, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. You know, there's the Skeleton Crew, which apparently Jude Law is going to be in. Nobody knew anything about that until Celebration, and it'll be interesting to hear more about what that's about. All we know is that it's people living on the Outer Rim. No clue what that might be. So it'll be interesting going forward to see what happens with that. So Craig, I think it's a question you have to ask whenever you're talking about Star Wars. Who is your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh boy. Well, it would have to be I don't think he was given a name in the Star Wars, but you know, Wicket would be probably the top one. But probably Han Solo, I bet, probably.
Well, I think
Or
mine
Chewbacca.
mine is vacillates between Luke Skywalker. When I was a kid, Luke Skywalker was my boyfriend. I said that he would be my forever boyfriend, and I once tweeted that at Mark Hamill, and he liked it. So I feel like that was saying, yes, he is my forever boyfriend. So it's Luke Skywalker, but you know, Ahsoka. I love Ahsoka. She's such a strong character. They told such good stories with her in the Clone Wars, continued that in the Rebels, and now on the Mandalorian in her own series. So I'm really excited to see where they take her character from here. So my other question for you, Craig, would be, what's your favorite movie from Star Wars?
Favorite movie is Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Not just because of the Ewoks, but it was the of our time. It was the last movie of the three, and they blew up the Death Star and got to see Darth Vader go back to Jedi. So yeah, that would be the most one I like. But then you have the Last Jedi would be the other one I really enjoyed. So
I really enjoyed A New Hope. Is probably my favorite. I mean, it's the one that started it all. And it could be a complete story from beginning to end. So it is probably my favorite. I love Rogue One. I think it was a fantastic story. it probably might be number one if everybody hadn't died, spoiler warning, because that just was kind of a bummer, and it makes it hard to rewatch, because it just, watching everybody blow up again and again isn't any fun. But I really like Force Awakens too. It was such a fun movie to return to Star Wars after so long. I love the new cast. I liked the story. And even Rise of Skywalker, I liked how they wrapped up the story. Last Jedi took the sequel series in an interesting direction, so they kind of corrected course in that third one. But I really liked where it ended. And I'm gonna say right here and now to all the Reylo people out there, Kylo Ren could not survive. Ben Solo could not survive. What was she going to do? Take him back to camp and say, here's the guy that blew up all your planets, and he's okay now. And that was not going to work. There was going to be no redemption in the eyes of the universe for Kylo Ren. But he did what he needed to do. He saved Rey's life, and that allowed him to return to the Force. And that was the important part. Not that they get to live out and be happily married Jedis or something, but that he found his redemption and returned to the Force. And with that, allowed Leia to return to the Force, because her spirit was there hanging on, literally holding him together, until he was able to redeem himself by giving Rey his life force. But that's a discussion for another time. So, Craig, anything else you're looking forward to, not just in Star Wars, but maybe in the broader pop culture universe? I'm watching Ms. Marvel. I think it's great. It's awesome. It's amazing. My 9-year-old is in love with it. I think it is her absolute favorite thing on TV right now, which is saying something, because she loves her Mako mermaids.
Yeah, I just got done watching the Doctor Strange, the new one, and that brought in with people that comic book heroes that you usually don't see together, like X-Men and Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see what that brings next. So the Marvel universe I'm really into. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here, with the introduction of the multiverse, introduction of people that can travel between the multiverses. The Skrulls, Secret Invasion is coming up, and that's, in the comics at least, is centered around a squad of Skrulls that have been here replacing heroes for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how they spin that story. I have a theory that it's not going to be the Skrulls that are the Secret Invasion this time, that it might be the Kree, who are the mortal enemy of the Skrull. So that'll be interesting. The Marvel universe is just wide open now, and we get great stories like Ms. Marvel. We get great characters like America Chavez and Wanda and Doctor Strange, and I think it'll be a fantastic journey. They put John Krasinski in there as Reed Richards, and they've been teasing us with that. Now we'll see if they go forward with that version of Reed Richards, perhaps from another universe, but you can't put him out there as Reed Richards and tease us with that look and then, change your mind and put somebody else in the role. So I think that'll be exciting. And I think we're running out of time for this week, so we're going to wrap it up. We hope you enjoyed Obi-Wan as much as we did. Remember to like us on our socials down below. So with that, we will see you next week, and rise up
and breathe fire.